Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews, it's your number one source. Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
What is up? Episode 133 is here. Happy to be back. Start off with a shameless plug. Dr. Beckett's podcast, Sports Card Insight, every day, 10-15 minutes of great content, stories from past hobby history, current events, a great guest. Most of you know about the show already, but just in case, the two that don't, that are still left, there you go. But did a couple shows with them, but not just me, my son and Dad, Barry, my son Jordan, and myself, all three of us on one mic. Crazy as that might sound, but what a blast. And, for my dad, especially at 83, to get to talk to Dr. Beckett and talk about memories from growing up in Brooklyn and cards back then, and just, his idol, which was, even though he's a Dodger fan, was Joe DiMaggio. I wasn't a Yankee fan, but a Joe DiMaggio fan. Talked about, how he found out about Babe Ruth passing away and how you could hear a pin drop and then crying started, and almost kind of taking you back sort of in the time machine. And, for celebrate Father's Day and to have us be in three generations with my son and my dad on the same show. I can't, it's hard to put in words what a treat that was, and probably something, he's been on this show talking about the Brooklyn experience. I believe that's like episode 78, but with the Dr. Beckett Sports Card Insights, when you get three Newmans on there, you had to do two episodes. You get ours mouths going. There's no way it can contain it into one episode. So two episodes, about 15 minutes each. Real blast doing it. Real honored that he asked us to do it. And my dad it was on cloud nine that whole day after taping, and loves talking about that stuff. I'll have to try to get him back on this show, maybe to talk about that era without maybe focusing just on the Brooklyn Dodgers and Brooklyn, maybe just talking about that in generic and other terms other than Brooklyn. So maybe look for that somewhere down the line. But check those two episodes out. Check all those episodes that week too, where we're all fathers and sons, and well done. And check them all out. I listened to them all myself, and just well done. Perfect timing, Father's Day week, and was awesome to be a part of it. So, we're 1 week closer to the National. We'll talk a little bit about that, during our interview. Speaking of our interview, we have someone that very young, in a male-dominated hobby. It is what it is. She's a graduate of the University of South Carolina, 22 years old, but already doing great things with her YouTube show, Women of the Hobby. Sam Shuford is my guest today, and great hobbyist. I don't like to necessarily put, male, female on anything. She's a great hobbyist, a great content creator. And but comes at it from a female angle, no doubt. She's a woman of the hobby, and while her show is that's the angle her show really does focus on. She does a great job too, just covering the hobby. She's had male guests on the show, so it's I don't like just putting shouldn't be just one way or the other. There's multiple ways to hobby. It doesn't matter what race, creed, or color you are. Doesn't matter. And she's doing big things, and I was glad she could come on and talk to her about some of the issues facing women. But the interview itself is going to be a hobby interview. Sure, there's going to be some women of the hobby type questions, but I didn't want it to be all that, and it wasn't. And hopefully you appreciate that. And again, if you haven't checked out her show, it's on YouTube, Women of the Hobby, and she has some great guests on her show as well. So happy Sam can join the show. She'll be at the National as well, and look forward to meeting her as well as a lot of other people in person too. So with that being said, let's without further ado get this thing kick-started. All right, next segment is our new release of the week portion, and we've been having volunteers step up to do it, and this week is the same, and I want to thank them. Did a great job. Cecilio Marino Jr., take it away.
What is going on, Sports Card Nation? I want to give a shout out to John Newman for letting me announce this week's releases. And if you want to follow me, my name is Cecilio Moreno at House of Cards. My handle on IG is House of Cards HTX. That's HAUSOFCARDHTX. Anyways, this week's release on 6/25, we have 2020 Leaf Valiant Baseball. We have on 6/25, 2020-21 Leaf Pearl Hockey. On 6/25, 2020, we have Leaf Trinity Baseball. 6/30, 2021 Topps Complete Baseball Factory Set. 6/30, 2020, 2021 Panini New War Basketball. On 6/30, we have 2021 Upper Deck Goodwin Champions. 6/30, 2021 Panini Select Baseball. On 6/30, 2020, 2021 Panini Mosaic UEFA Euro Soccer. 6/30, 2020, 2021 Topps Merlin Chrome Soccer. And last but not least, 6/30, 2021 Panini Luminance Football. Again, big shout out to John Newman at Sports Card Nation for letting me announce this week's release. Appreciate y'all. Signing out. Hope to talk to y'all again.
Pastime Marketplace has a line of graded card cases that are waterproof, airtight, dust-tight, and hardened to protect and organize your valuable collection. Each of our cases come with pre-cut and pre-formed foam, so you don't have to cut and tear the foam when you get your case. The pre-cut foam inserts are sized to hold PSA, Beckett, SGC, and CGS slabs. Store it all safely and securely with a case from Pastime Marketplace. Check them out at www.pastimemarketplace.com.
It's time for the Hobby What's Up, where we go around the hobby world and tell you all the latest news and breaking stories from the hobby we love.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
All right, that applause is for eBay. I know, I usually talking about something I don't like that eBay's decided. This is the other side of that coin. Kudos to eBay for their new return policy and changing it. So the new return policy, this goes effect on July 29th, 3 days. If the buyer has a no returns in his description in auction, the buyer has only 3 days from the received delivery date to decide to initiate return. This is going to prevent you know where I'm going with this. This is going to prevent a buyer in the cards niche, buying a card, something happens, the card goes down 2-3 weeks later, and with the 30-day policy, they can initiate a return and buyer's remorse. This only gives you 3 days. And so, I mean, you can still, say you don't want it, but if it's someone who's buying something because they're looking to quick flip or hold and on the anticipation that it's going to go up, and after that 3 days, and it doesn't, and after that 3 days, you own it. And so, I think eBay, I know I pick on them sometimes. I got to give them credit here. They seem to really be, whether they're getting enough complaints from sellers, or they're really just doing some inner soul searching. They're really reevaluating their policies. We talked about it, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before that, with a bidder cannot retract their bid unless the owner of the item, the seller, the auctioneer, agrees to let them. And so, again, they're starting to make some decisions and moves to protect the seller, when it's always been about the buyer before, to a fault, quite frankly. And so, kudos for eBay for looking at things and making what I consider better policies, better rules. All right, let's talk a little bit about the market right now. We're definitely in a correction in the very least, and there are others that point out by percentages we're in a crash, a minor crash, a crash that's not terrible because of how strong the hobby was to begin with. And until I saw some of these numbers that were crunched, I wouldn't have agreed with that. But I think we have really, I know it's semantics and what we call it. Maybe I'll call it a severe correction rather than a crash. Just the word crash kind of scary. So I don't like to, scare people, if you will. But definitely a severe correction. We've seen, a lot of singles, even in the vintage side of things. I was just on Mike Moynihan's podcast, Golden Age of Cardboard, awesome show, airing soon, I believe. And, he showed a graphic of some of his top cards and where they were and where they are now. And it's a significant decrease, even on the vintage side of the house. And we can't ignore it. Now, wax is always going to be in demand, but even wax is sort of that rate of ROI on wax has come down as well. It's still a great product or part of the hobby to definitely flip and make some money on if that's your thing, but you're not making as much as you were before with that aspect. So there's a definite huge correction going on. Some people won't like it that are just about quick flipping, and there's nothing wrong with that. To each their own. I don't have any animosity towards that segment. And it'll be interesting to see if things keep going the way they are, or even drop precipitously more. Will we see some exodus from the hobby? Will we see some people get out just as fast as they get in? And if you know my stance, I don't want people to leave the hobby. It's just, to me, it's a little sacrilegious to do that, to think like that. We need people in the hobby for the hobby to thrive and be strong. I know others will say good riddance to those kind of folks if they leave. I get it, but just I don't take up that baton and run with it. I'm different in that respect. But we're seeing the hobby change again, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either. It's a great opportunity to buy some cards. Quite frankly, I probably should be buying more than I am, but what I've done is sort of put a freeze on my buying, not my selling, but my buying, to just stockpile and put some more money away towards my trip to Chicago and the National. I always say this: there's nothing like buying a card in person. Get the barter with the dealer, have the card in hand, see how clean or not clean it is, and all that stuff. You know the drill. And so I'm looking to buy more this time at this National than the last one I was at. I did buy some stuff, but I want to try to buy a little bit more, especially on my personal PC project that I kicked off a little over a month ago, which is Hall of Fame rookie graded cards. And so I'd like to bring a few more back to New York with me after the show's over. And so I've really kind of pulled the reins up on buying. But honestly, it's, I probably should be buying. I just want to really bring more money to Chicago. And so, someone asked me, well, John, are the dealers in Chicago going to sell at what the market is bearing right now, that it's lower? Or are they going to not put stuff out? And again, that's a hard question to answer. Every dealer is an individual and does things a different way. Some are probably going to not put certain cards out because they don't want to sell it for what the current market dictates is the comp. And others are just go with the flow. Hey, I'm here to make some money, to buy new inventory. And so, the market says it's 200. I'll take around that and on to the next, right? So every table is going to be different. Overall, is the vibe of the show going to be, market price or less, and let's make some money? I don't know. That's going to be one of the things that on the days that I really look around at the cards and prices and transactions and buy myself, that's going to be what I'm going to be intently looking at and trying to take in and see where that dealer mindset is at this show, especially now. The timing of it's sort of interesting that it's happening. This sort of drop is happening right now before the show, and sort of the dynamics of that, how it's going to work, and how will the dealers respond in kind. So we'll see. Crash, severe correction. It's really just the phrasing of it. We're seeing prices come down significantly across the board, quite frankly. Newer, modern, ultra modern, and even in the vintage sector, and even the wax is not going for those crazy amounts of money that we really sort of got used to in the last year and a half, 2 years. Speaking of the show, CSG Grading will be on-site grading there. I don't know any details as far as pricing, just that they announced they will be at the show grading. While I'm not a big fan personally, truth be told, HGA is also going to be, they're going to have a booth. Now, I don't know if they're going to be taking subs there. I don't know if they're going to be grading on site or just kind of a booth to advertise. I'm not sure, but they will be at the National as well. Upper Deck's National Hockey Card Day is coming up July 24th, just before the National gets going. But they've done it before, I believe, and get your packs at certain stores and where you get your hockey cards. They're going to be special Upper Deck National Hockey Card Day. Like to see it. I know we have that on the baseball side of things, and so why not have hockey? It's all's fair in the hobby. Speaking of hobby, Hobbypalooza is coming up, I believe July 9th, 10th, and 11th. Mostly the 10th and 11th. And our conglomerate morning, multiple podcast hosts Saturday morning show, Hobby Hotline, is kicking off those festivities on July 10th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We get to keep our time slot where we're going to be the first show on the schedule, on the itinerary for Hobbypalooza 2021. Did last year. It's run by Bench Clear Media. Mike Moynihan, baseball card collector, does some of the legwork, or a lot of the legwork, and it's a great thing. It was formed last year when the National got canceled to have some content and something to do. It was a great success, and they're doing it again. Like I said, Hobby Hotline will kick it off July 10th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, and happy to announce at the next day, Sunday at 7 p.m., we're actually going to do a Sports Card Nation Live. I've only done, I think, 2 Sports Card Nation live shows. This will be the third one. And so we're going to be live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. That's Sunday, July 11th. It'll be myself and special guests, my buddies from Pack to the Future podcast. Tim, Chad, and Ricky. Great group of guys, man. Hilarious. They're enjoying the hobby. Love the show. It's going to be the 4 of us on the screen talking about probably current events. Haven't decided if we'll take call-ins, but I'm leaning to do that. So call in. Again, July 11th, 7 p.m. Myself and Chad, Tim, and Ricky from Pack to the Future podcast. 1 hour. We'll be on for 1 hour. And I'm actually going to, if all goes well, I'm going to release that show in audio podcast form during the National. I believe it's the 30th of July, the Friday. Whatever the last Friday in July is, I'm going to release that later on in audio form. I'm going to be at the National, obviously. And, it'll be easier for me to just kind of pump that one out there. So if you miss it live, don't. But if you do miss it live, you can catch it in audio form the last Friday in July as part of Sports Card Nation regular lineup. So there you go. And thanks to Mike Moynihan, Bench Clear Media, for inviting not only Hobby Hotline, but Sports Card Nation to be a part of that great event. And so happy to do it and looking forward to it. So don't miss that either show.
Tired of going to the retail store just to find empty shelves? The solution is Hotbox Cards. They offer a monthly subscription service at a great price level. Each box contains 3 sealed packs, 3 relic or autographed cards, and 50 cards featuring stars, rookies inserts, and parallels. 1 in 5 boxes have an envelope with a surprise card. They will honor expired redemptions with a comparable item. Check them out at www.hotboxcards.net.
And remember, use the promo code SCNATION, SCNATION, for an extra 4th hit in your subscription box.
Sports Card Nation! It's now time to chop it up with our featured guest on the one-of-one card shop guest line. Let's go!
All right, real excited to have my next guest on the Sports Card Nation podcast. She has her own show. She's a proud graduate of the University of South Carolina. She's doing big things and very quickly, and happy she's made some time for us on the show. She's the host of Women of the Hobby, none other than Sam Shuford. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank you, John. I really appreciate you taking the time to have us on here and, just talk about the hobby. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on. And we're going to get into a lot of different things, but with your show, I think it's important, as someone like me who's old and been in the hobby a long time, let's just put it that way, and the old man on the porch, we are seeing more women in the hobby, and I think that's very important. I think it's huge. I know we talked a little bit before we kind of went live, some of my perspective. Sometimes I think, we spend a little too much time. If I was in a different hobby, let's say where it was, female dominated and it was something I enjoyed, I'd want to be known more just as someone who enjoys that hobby or that sport or whatever the niche is. and I think that's important too. But we are seeing more, and I think it's important to the hobby, to the long-term success of the hobby. But I getting into kind of your background, I know Sports Illustrated for Kids cards sort of got you in early as a younger lady, and then I know you kind of went away and then came back recently, and we've seen what some of these Sports Illustrated for Kids cards now go here on the secondary market. I mean, does that surprise you at all? No one kind of, I mean, I remember even seeing them. I was older when I saw them, but they were just kind of those perforated cards in the magazine, and now some of them are fetching four figures or more. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely, the Sports Illustrated for Kids cards were definitely how I guess I had my first entrance into the hobby and collecting different cards and things like that. But it is amazing to see what some of these cards are going for. And I think something that's kind of unique about the Sports Illustrated cards specifically is I think it's more so for those sports that aren't necessarily like mainstream. Like I know there's like a Tony Hawk, like SI for Kids, there's a Tiger Woods, there's like Serena Williams, and there's just like a lot of different SI for Kids cards. So I think it's kind of nice to introduce, other sports as well, which I kind of like about it. But yeah, they're going for a lot, which is insane because, I mean, I think they're going for some of the higher graded ones, obviously a premium because it's so hard to tear out. Like, and I feel like when people were kids, they're just tearing them out. They're not caring about, condition or whatnot. So yeah, it's crazy what those values are really fetching right now.
Yeah, and it's funny. You think that the magazine itself probably cost $250, $350 at the time, if my memory serves me correctly. And if you were one of the fortunate ones to like you said, extricate that card out of the magazine in good fashion, you still have the card in that condition, you're probably doing all right and pleasantly surprised many years later what those cards have brought. And many of them, the cool thing about them is many of them, it's really, in a sense, they're true rookie cards. It's the first time they've appeared on a card in any fashion. And so for those people, and as you very well know, where we have 70 different releases of just Bowman, right? And so which one is the old debate, which one is the one to get, or which one is it's sort of like vintage, where there really was only one true sort of rookie card. Sports Illustrated, the kids cards sort of fit that mold, that fit that description. And I think that's actually some of the reason we're seeing some of the values we are on those particular releases.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't really know if I had thought about it like that before, but it is true. Like, I think for a lot of, like, the year that I have, I believe, is 2007, 2008. So it's Steph Curry, and it probably is one of his first cards out there. And he's still in his Davidson uniform. So, like, he's not wearing a pro jersey or anything. So, yeah, it kind of highlights these athletes really before they become true professionals. Like, right. I feel like they highlight a lot of people who maybe you never hear about again, but then some of them obviously become really big names.
Yeah. And it's great. And, it's also great, if you go in Salvation Army thrift store hop, and you never know where you might find an old Sports Illustrated for Kids and which one you might run into. So I think we're going to see, even years from now, Sam, people, look what I just found here. Or look where I found in my, my uncle's attic, or in my, my old garage. I forgot all about these type of deal. I think we'll see them kind of pop up years later with some of those bigger, more expensive cards that we kind of talked about. So I just came from Dallas a few weeks ago, the Dallas show, that first time in Texas. For me. And, as I've said, and people who listen to the show know, I've been on both sides of the table as a dealer still and as a consumer. Obviously, I went to the Dallas show as a consumer and was there for three and a half days. And I walked the floor, and I was, happy to see there was a lot of female dealers. I saw a good handful of female dealers, and then even those consumers on the other side of the table on the floor. More than, I'm the old codger. I've been in this a long time, more than I've ever seen before. We have the National obviously coming up. I expect to see even more with a show of that magnitude. I think it's great. While I may be talking about it now to you because of your show, I don't look at someone of a female persuasion and say, oh, I see him as a hobbyist, but you do. And when you start to see them become more prevalent in the hobby, I think it's important to note. And, we see people in positions of hobby power positions with, Sue's at tops, then Emily Kless. I know I'm probably forgetting some other people at Panini that hold very important positions and upper deck and tops other than Emily. It's important, to recognize that, they're a very important part of the hobby. I think your show does a great job at highlighting not just you've had Sue's on your show and you've had collectors on the show, and it's one thing that's great. I try to do the same thing. Is wherever walk of life you're from, we're all part of the hobby. The hobby is the people is the tagline of this show, and even with your show, you've had male guests on, and so you're not just saying, hey, this show's just for women and you're excluded. While we're going to highlight that, and that's kind of the focal point, the hobby is everyone too. And, kudos to you for doing that. We've seen issues where maybe not with the hobby, but maybe like a golf club that says, hey, we're all just men, or college, it's nice to see while the focal point is women in the hobby, we'll also have a male person in the hobby just as well. And the hobby is for all of us. And I think you do a great job of that. So my hat's off to you.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think that is kind of the main idea. It's not to separate us and, put us on a pedestal or anything like that. It's really to just shine the light in a bigger room of everyone. So yeah, I agree. It's for everyone. And yeah, I hope to continue to have male and female. I try and make it is like, I know that the naming is like, oh, maybe that's only for women, but no, like I want men to be involved as well. It's for everyone, as is kind of your tagline as well. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that it's working out pretty well. That's the one thing I really didn't want to make it like, exclusive or just like anything like that. I wanted it to be just bringing awareness and just like bringing us in together. So that makes me feel good that hopefully it's coming across well.
Oh, no doubt. I don't think if anyone's not seeing that, then I'll say it. They're not looking hard enough, or they're just not watching, period. So, and shame on them. So, but, you've come back in the hobby. You've got the content creation with the Women Hobby Show. I got to ask you, from being in it before as a younger person and now being older and a graduate of college, what do you think, if I asked you, I'll put you a little bit on the hot seat here, Sam, the biggest roadblock for, let's say, a woman to partake in the hobby? What do you think is like the biggest obstacle? Like if a fellow woman said to you, hey, Sam, I'm thinking about, I kind of like cards, I have an interest, and you probably get these questions. I'm looking to get in the hobby, but what are the pratfalls? What's your advice? Like, what's the biggest obstacle that you would tell them? Like, hey, just be wary of this, or this is something that we haven't done a better job with yet.
Yeah. So I think kind of to get the younger generation in, I think one of the biggest things is, I hear everyone kind of tell their hobby story, and they're like, oh, I got in when I was younger. I kind of took a break, and then I found cards and I fell back in love again. But I feel like to try and get the younger like women within like starting earlier, they kind of need to start when they're younger to have that same type of story, so to speak, or period of time where they're very interested in cards. So like a lot of people, I think the hobby starts with like the younger generation getting in and then like finding that love, and then life does happen and you may fall out of it, but then you may see it come up again down the road. So I think that's like one thing. But then in terms of someone who maybe they're trying to get in right now, what are some roadblocks that they might encounter? I think for me, one of the biggest things was maybe as a female, I didn't always feel comfortable enough to engage or like put myself out there the most, just because it is mainly males, and so it's just kind of like I don't know like how they'll really respond. You just never know in situations where you feel like you're kind of the odd one out. So I think it's kind of just like having the courage to just go out there and really kind of engage with other people in the community. I think that's going to be the best way that you feel welcome and you feel comfortable. And I feel like the hobby in general, especially with social media nowadays, it's kind of, there's a lot of, I'm probably going to like not say this word, anonymity.
Animosity.
Animosity, but like there's a lot of people who are kind of like anonymous, like with people's social medias accounts. Yeah, you can't like really tell, like if they're a male, if they're a female, you can't really tell because a lot of people just have like cards or they have something else as their profile picture. So I think that's kind of interesting within the hobby. It's just something that I've noticed. So I think that's one thing they could do though, is just like engage more. I think that's something that I wish I had done earlier, was just reach out to other people. Maybe if we collected the same thing, or, if I really liked a card that they got and I was asking them, how did you, work your way up to get to this card, just asking them different things. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I personally struggled with. And I think other women might struggle with that. And that could be an obstacle. It's just making that first leap to kind of putting yourself out there, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I can see it, being a little reserved, like you said, with the landscape being mostly male. I'm going to step aside for a quick break to hear from one of our awesome sponsors, Iron Sports Cards. But we'll be right back with Sam Shuford from Women of the Hobby.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
Sports Card Nation is back with Sam Shuford. Even as a dealer myself, I did my first show as a dealer at 15. And believe it or not, for where I am now at 48, I was a very shy kid. So I would just set up my showcases and I would sit there, and I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't very personable. And it wasn't because I was trying to be rude. I was just so shy. And so it took someone saying, hey, can I see this? Or I want that, for me to really, I learned to sort of perfect, I don't want to say perfect. It's not perfect. I learned to obviously get better with age and being more personable and how are you today? What are you looking for? Talk if they're wearing a jersey, maybe talk about their team or what's going on if the season's ongoing. But at 15, I was that shy kid that was just waiting for someone to call on me. And now as an older dealer, obviously it's night and day. And so whether it's a male or a female hobbyist that come over, I don't treat them any different. My banter is going to be the same. How are you? What do you collect? Is there anything in particular you're looking for? I don't change that. I think, humans by nature can tell whether you're being sort of disingenuous or talking to them differently than maybe someone else. And I think it comes across that way. And, that's just the way, Sam, I was raised to treat everybody fair and nice. And I think that helps. And then they will talk to you and you establish some banter and some communication. And I think it's important. I think, there's probably a segment of the hobby. I'm not just saying even in the dealer aspect that maybe, I don't want to say resents, but, maybe doesn't appreciate that aspect of the hobby and maybe the way they should, or views them differently, which I don't agree with, but I'm sure like in any genre that's going to be the case. And it's unfortunate, and that's probably what leads into maybe being a little reserved is the actions of the few there that fit that description. And I just know it's not going to be me that does it, and I'm going to promote and try to be, a voice of change. If someone is feeling that way, to show them that there's really no reason to. And I don't know where it comes from, but we all can enjoy this hobby as just one big hobby, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, whatever. It's not just a male or female thing. And I think it's important. This is a global hobby. I mean, this isn't just in the United States. It's overseas. It's almost everywhere, and no reason we all can't enjoy it just the same without anyone having to feel ostracized or different or anything like that. I think we're making strides. I think your show is definitely a very important piece to that, even in the early going and as you go along. I mean, kind of talk, what was the catalyst for getting the show, and kind of talk about how that all kind of got off the ground.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I will say, as you were mentioning, that is kind of, you said, you were a shyer kid. That's still me today. Like I'm 22, like I work full time, but I'm still like, whenever I go to shows, I get a little timid. I I just kind of, still working on that, still working on my show skills, definitely. But, not only even set up, I just walk around and I'm still like, but it's just a lot sometimes to take in, just like all these cards, so many things, going through your mind. But yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with me personally, also just being a shyer person. But that's really, it kind of leads into why I created, Women of the Hobby and what was the mindset behind it. And I think a lot of that was, I was looking for those hobby friends, and I knew like the guys, like I'm cool with guys. Like I've grown up a sports person. I've always been involved with, my dad's friends and whatnot. So like, I definitely know how to, I guess, like hold my own or have my own conversation about, with guys or whatnot. But I was kind of just looking for a circle of like women, or just like meeting more women who were like me and had similar experiences. And I really just wanted to hear from them, how long have you been doing this? And just kind of get their perspective on what they thought about it and things like that. Just so I could feel, a little bit more included. As I mentioned, I kind of felt, sometimes I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. I just kind of feel like, a little bit outside. But I wouldn't say it's really anything that like anyone did. Like no one really said anything to me. It was kind of just more in my head. I was like, I can tell I'm different. So, it was just a mental thing for me. But yeah, I think that was kind of the main motivation, was just to find another group of women that I could talk to about cards, just hear about their perspectives within the hobby, and just hear their stories as well.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job. I know you do your collector of the week. I think you do a great job getting the word out there that there's a lot of us. You don't have to, I hate to be dramatic, maybe, hide in the shadows or be sort of reserved, if you will. Like you can say, hey, I collect cards, and there's plenty of us, here, and also you get to know each other. I mean, those that watch the show can then connect, and that circle obviously will grow and get bigger and more powerful, as it should. And I think whether that was your goal or kind of the what I mean, the plan. I think it's that's the way it's been going, and I think it's great. I think it's important that fellow women of the hobby realize, like, hey, there's a lot more of us than we probably even thought about. It's just there's 50 states, and then there's countries, and we're all over the place, and it's important. With social media, it's made the world a smaller place. You can talk to somebody in 5 seconds that's halfway around the world, and it's made that community tighter, smaller, and more close knit. And I think that's important. That's any sex persuasion, male, female, the whole thing. But I think it's important, for the females of the hobby to know, like, there's plenty of it, and more every day entering the hobby arena. And I think it's important to get that word out there. And so, whether it's called that, it doesn't matter. Like I said, you've had male guests as well. So it's you're not being exclusionary on your own terms either. You're just saying, hey, let's talk about our perspective in the hobby, and maybe even problem solve. Hey, what do we need? What do we got to improve in this hobby as a whole, male, female, both of us, to make this hobby the best it can be for everybody. And I think that's always important. So kudos to that. And as far as, listen, when I first started, your chops will get better as you go. It's funny, I cringe when I listen to some early, we're on episode, this is 133, and when I listen to some of the early ones, it's not pretty. And to tell you the truth, I'd probably delete them, Sam, if they weren't sort of part of the history of the show. I would delete them. I just don't. Hey, where's episode 1 to 10? Like, what happened to them? Like, I accidentally hit delete. Like, other than being sort of part of the history and the archive and the fabric of the whole show, I sometimes do go back and listen to them, and man, I hide under my desk when I hear them. And the more you do anything, you get better at it. And as far as, like you saying, being nerves, I get them too. I still play competitive softball, and going in my 30th season, and I still, before games, probably played 1,000 games, and you still get that. I think it means you care. And you have a passion for it. And so it's when you don't get those little butterflies, I think you might have to worry a little bit, like you're just kind of going through the motions, And so nothing wrong with that. And you do a great job for my 2 cents worth. And you'll get better, even if you feel like you're not. You'll get much better as you go. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know sometimes with the videos, because obviously, like, I record it and whatnot, and then obviously I have to go back in and edit a few things, maybe if it's super long and we just kind of, drag on about something or whatnot. But yeah, sometimes I don't enjoy listening back through it. I just kind of like hearing my own voice too. I'm like, oh no, like, what did I say? You just never know. But yeah, I think as it gets going, you become more comfortable. But I do agree. Like, I always say that as well, if you're not nervous, you really care about it, so yeah, it's always good to have a little bit of nerves because it shows you care. I agree.
Yeah. If it makes you feel better, and I've said this on the show before, people who've heard the show have heard me say, I'm not a fan of my voice, like hearing me on playback. I might have a face for radio. I'm not even sure I have a voice for radio though. But so, I think we're all a little bit critical of ourselves too much, and you just got to have fun. I think if you're passionate and people see that and you're having fun with what you're doing, that shines through, and that comes through more than anything else. Sure, there's some people that are going to look and just judge right off the bat, not be open-minded, but you can't worry about folks like that. You're not going to win. They've already made their decision, so it's not open for discussion, and focus on those that are open-minded, care what you're talking about, care about the issues that you're bringing, to the platform, and that's where your focus needs to be. So, and you're doing great. So keep it up. Going to take another break to hear from one of our great sponsors, One of One Card Shop. Steve Chad and family doing great things out there in Ohio.
What doesn't One of One Card Shop do? From box, case, and personal breaks, there's always fire being pulled. They offer bulk grading subs, and their large store located in Strongsville, Ohio, offers an incredible selection of sports cards, non-sports, and authentic autographed memorabilia. Steve and family will treat you right. Check them out on Instagram at One of One Card Shop or on the web at oneofOneCardShop.com. We
are back with Sam Shuford. Has the show changed, like, for what we see now to kind of where you thought, have you sort of moved off, have you changed much from the original intent at all?
Yeah, actually, so like my original intent, and I spoke on this a few days ago as well, but so like Women of the Hobby, it was more so a play on words of Humans of New York, which is like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's like an Instagram page, and I think it's even become like a book now, but it's essentially just telling the stories of random people on the streets of New York. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just like tell the stories of women who collect cards. And so my main focus was just going to be interviewing women. But Hannah from She Collects Cards, she reached out to me, and we've connected. And so we kind of had the idea of just doing like a weekly show of not us interviewing sometimes we'll bring on different people, but more so just like talking about the weekly news just as we would, and just like filming it essentially. So that's been pretty fun. It's definitely made it more of a commitment, because when I was doing the interviews, it was maybe every 2 weeks, but now this weekly show, it's once a week. So I feel like,
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just
exactly.
kidding.
There's so much going on. I don't want to say like, I think it adds an aspect, but at the same time, it takes away from your time that you were previously, researching cards, like just doing other card things. It's now consumed with making content and it's still about cards, but it's different. So there's a different aspect to it as well. So I think that's definitely changed. And I don't want to say I underestimated the time commitment, but I think in the beginning, I maybe wasn't as efficient as, getting things set up, and it was taking me forever. But I think luckily now, as things have progressed and I've just made more videos, and I'm getting a little bit better at doing that. And it's not taking up so much of my time like it used to. But I've enjoyed it, though. That is the best thing, I think, is I've been happy doing it, and it makes me happy. So I enjoy doing it as well.
Yeah. And that's, Sam, that's the bottom line. And you're going to figure out things as you go. Hey, I can do this. It'll save me a little time. I can be more efficient by doing this. It's like anything in life. The more you do something, the better at it you're going to just naturally get, and, you probably, I already call you a pro. You'll get even more pro level as you go. But you make a great point too. People who don't do content creation, I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, maybe a little bit. They don't realize like the work that, they might hear an hour, 2 hours of audio/video content and think that's it. But like you said, there's editing involved. You got to cut parts out. And so they may hear, let's say, an hour of content, but it was really 4 hours of work, of manpower, woman power that went into that, getting that final product out there. And, I don't know if you've gotten these questions yet. You will, or maybe you have already. I get asked all the time, like, John, any advice? I've been thinking about starting my own podcast. What would you, any advice to me? And I'm always very supportive, like, do it. If that's where your passion is, do it. But I'm also very honest in saying, while you may, as a fan of content, and you're here in that hour, be prepared to put in 2, 3, 4 hours to have that final product of an hour. So I think some people don't realize off the bat, like, the work that gets involved, and you got to find that work-life, balance. And it is true, as being in the hobby, it does take away from some of the things you have, the time you have for, being on a selling platform and buying something you're looking for, or, and that sort of thing. So you have to figure out kind of what schedule you want to operate on. And at 22, I'm going to sound like your mom or dad here, but you want to enjoy life too. You don't want to, I think we're seeing too, maybe some of this is as a result of the pandemic. I think as great as the hobby is, and it's the greatest hobby in the world, as Dr. Beckett and me have said on the show multiple times, and I agree with him, it can consume you too if you let it. Like anything, it's not just reserved to, if someone's into cars and that's all they do all day is work on cars and talk about cars and sports cars. It can consume you, whatever your hobby is, so you got to sort of, I've done shows on my smaller show, which is Hobby Quick Hits, about, it can be addicting to a point where it's not healthy. And so you've got to balance it out. Sometimes it's easier said than done. I've told the story. I've had dealer friends of mine who were just so much traveling with shows and whatnot, that they wound up being divorced and not seeing their kids as much. And so, those are some of the pratfalls of getting sort of, caught in the machine, I like to say. And so, you're very smart. I don't think that's going to be maybe a problem for yourself per se, but I think other people who are not, as focused could potentially get caught in that. There was a point even with me in this show, probably in the 50s and 60s, where it was getting very time consumption, where I hadn't really streamlined a lot of stuff, or wasn't as efficient with it, where my own wife said, John, you spent a lot of time on that. She was supportive, but just kind of hinting like, hey, we're still here, and it was a little bit of a wake up call. And so if it can happen, if I can get sort of close to that edge, it potentially can happen to anyone. And it just took, for me, I just had to, we have a whiteboard here, Sam, and I just, like this interview, it's on the whiteboard. Hey, I'm doing this at this time, and I'm doing this next week at this time. It's just communication, in my case, being married. I'm also fortunate, or my son's 21. He's a year younger than you. And so he's bops in and out. Sometimes I forget how old he is. And, if I had when he was younger, I probably couldn't do what I do now. He's sort of self-sufficient. And, but when he was younger, obviously playing sports and myself as even a coach, it wouldn't, I've always said this show has kind of replaced I coached varsity high school baseball and football. So this show, when that ended, when he graduated and I stepped down, this show's kind of replaced that schedule. So, but you sound like you've already sort of navigated some of those pratfalls, and you'll learn to do it even more so. And I do, I did as well. Sometimes it takes my wife just saying, hey, and just getting on the same page, in my case. And now we've had, once we got on that same page, it's been pretty smooth sailing. But I don't know if I've ever even kind of told that story. So there you go. But you'll figure it out. And, you can always, you just got to organize the time, it's just, I make it sound simple, but it's not, I don't think it's as hard as some make it out to be. And I don't think it's as simple. It's somewhere in between. So the other, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I definitely agree. I think when I first got in, there was maybe a point in time where, I don't know, addicted is like a strong word, but maybe obsessed for a little bit. I feel like obsessed is a little temporary sometimes. So I was like all about, whether it was cards or just like the account, just making different things. And I think my mom more so, I think she saw how much time I was spending on it, and she was just not worried, but just kind of like, okay, like you might just want to become more aware of how much time you're spending on this. And I think it was good to just kind of step back and realize, I can't just do this all day long. Like it's not sustainable and it's not healthy. So I think trying to find a balance is what I've been focused on more recently. And then I think in the future as well, just making sure it balances out with work and family, friends, just making it all work. As you said, it's probably not as easy as it sounds, but it's not too difficult. And I think it just takes time as well. So.
Yep. And I've talked about this, Sam. There's weekends I'll take off where I don't do anything hobby related, including show wise. And I'm not, and then not show wise, even cars. I won't even touch cars. I just take 2 days. And what I found when I do that, probably every 4 to 5 weeks, I kind of have a no cards weekend, if you will, no content, no cards weekend. I find I appreciate it more, kind of being away. It's the old adage, right? You don't know what you have until you don't have it. So sort of taking like a self-imposed hiatus, you appreciate, hey, how much you enjoy it when you're not partaking in it. And I think, for me, that works. I tend to do that, it seems like, about every 4 to 5 weeks. And it's not nothing I schedule. It's just kind of, hey, this weekend I got no interviews. I'm not going to touch cards. I'm going to go on the deck with a beverage and a cigar or in a hot tub, and just we'll kind of reconvene Monday in the hobby again. And the times I've done that, it's kind of refreshing. Kind of you decompress, and then when you come back, you sort of reinvigorate. At least with me, I'm sort of reinvigorated and ready to sort of get back on the horse and get going again. And I think it's important if you need to do that. I was at a dinner with Dr. Beckett in Dallas, and one of the questions came up about that sort of burnout, in the hobby. And it's what I said is I'm not afraid to pause. I think in 3 years we've had 3 Fridays where we haven't produced the show, but if there's a week where I just can't do it, I'll post something. Hey, no show Friday, going to take a break. We'll see you next Friday. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you communicate that and to people who kind of expect you to be there on Friday, like the newspaper on the doorstep, as long as you sort of add a, courtesy to them, kind of give them a heads up. Hey, no show this week. We'll see you next week just the same. I think people appreciate that. People understand that. We all, have similar issues and different things. And so I think as long as you communicate that, you don't even have to get into specifics, maybe why, or I just need a break. And, I think people are appreciative of that. And so, and I don't think there's anything, that was my stances. I don't think there's anything wrong. If you need to take a week off in content creation, sort of to decompress, get your second wind, and come back and be ready to go, then we get vacations from jobs, right? So why not on the content creation side? So I think if you need be, I think that options, I always tell other in the conversations I've had, there's nothing wrong with taking a week off. I know we don't like to do it, and the 3 times I did it, I was kind of, felt sort of a little bit guilty, if you will, but at the same time, I knew it was important so that it can continue and that we don't, you see a lot of shows sort of on the side of the road that, did 10 episodes, 15 episodes, and then that was it. Maybe some of that was they just, grinded too hard where they just, burned out too quick, and you got to pace yourself. And, taking a break, I'll never tell someone to not take a break if that's what you need,
Yeah, I definitely agree. In fact, like, speaking of breaks, I'm going on vacation next week. So I'm pretty excited, and I won't have an episode, but I'm definitely gonna probably not be on my phone as much, obviously, and just we're going to some national parks, so I'm pretty excited. I haven't really been out west too much, so it should be good. But I think it's gonna be good because I'm thinking of different things that I can do afterwards, but I'm definitely gonna take a break and just be I just need to relax a little bit, and then I think it'll be good to come back, and I do think I will feel kind of rejuvenated and want to do even more things when I come back, but still at a steady pace, nothing too ramped up too much.
Yeah, you will, and as much fun as you'll probably have, you'll miss that, and then like you said, when you come back, you'll appreciate I love doing this show. I like my break and I like my vacation, but now I'm home and I'm ready to jump back in the director's chair here, and let's get going again. And nothing wrong with that. It's actually very healthy. So I'll say it ahead of time. Enjoy that time away too.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to step aside to hear from one of our national sponsors, but right after that, we'll be back with more from Sam. Sports Card Nation is back with Sam Shuford. Has the show changed, for what we see now to kind of where you thought? Have you sort of seen, talking about, we've seen card art the last 2 years here, 2020, 2021 become big with the Topps Project 2020 and the Project 70. And some of those artists are obviously very talented and of the female persuasion. We have Sophia Chang, Lauren Taylor, Distorted. I may be missing someone. If I am, I apologize. I'm not doing it intentionally. How important do you think, even on the art side of the hobby with the female artists, do you think that's helped, maybe expose, more females? Hey, maybe not even to just collecting cards, but hey, I'm an artist. I sort of like cards, and I can draw athletes. Maybe this is something I can do as a career. You think it helps in that regard?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I haven't really kind of thought about that myself, but I do like that. I think any more women that you can bring in, no matter the aspect, whether they be, they're just collecting, they're investing, they're making cards, or maybe they're, we mentioned before, like Suze, she's part of Topps, or she previously was with Topps, and working with actual card manufacturers. I think the more women you can have in that space, I think the better, just because I think you have diversity of thought too. Just like how women think and men think, obviously, I think we can agree that we think differently on some things. So it's just, I think it's great just to have more women involved. And I do think that could be another entry point for other women to get in, maybe through the artistry of the cards. Maybe they have somewhat of an affinity for sports in some capacity, but then maybe their true passion is the art and they really enjoy the art of those cards. So I do think that could be a different way for women to kind of come in and, just appreciate the hobby for what it is as well. I like that point. I haven't, really been asked that or thought about that.
But it's public domain, so you're free to use it. If you wanna give a shout out, I'm all about it. But no, it is true. It's something I thought about is being sort of a fan of those two things. I'm not buying everything, but if something strikes me that I like, and it's great to see that aspect of it, and some of the best work is coming from that side of the aisle, if you will. I don't want to say aisle. I don't think there is an aisle, but I just think it's great for someone of the younger. Hey, I can do this. And, like you said, with Suze and Emily, basically the faces of Topps, with Emily coming in after Suze. I mean, they're the speaking points of a major, probably arguably the greatest company in the industry. I think that's a very important point and aspect. And I think, for a young girl to see that, hey, I can be a CEO. I can be a spokesman. I can be, head of marketing, or whatever title they want to hold, or whatever field they want to go in. Maybe they're more comfortable behind the scenes. I want to work there, but I want to design the 2025 Topps. I want to be part of that team. Well, whatever, their heart desires. I think what it shows is that you can do anything you put your mind to, and that goes for males as well. But I think that. But when we see females doing those things on the art side, on the hobby side, as executives, and what you do even as collectors, hey, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's so important to highlight. I don't, someone else might say, well, I think it's important in many ways, because there's some that need that example, that might be on the sidelines, sort of like, I want to do it, I'm hesitant, and it might be your show or a guest on your show that says, hey, I'm doing it, and not apologizing for it, nor should I. And here we go. And, just like what you did with starting the show, like, I'm going to do this. And you took that plunge. I think some folks need that. You're sort of more maybe self-motivated. Some other people maybe a little bit less, and they need that example in front of them to be that final sort of, push to do it. And when they get there, they can do anything they want to and be whoever they want to be, collect whoever they want to collect, what they want to collect. And I think it's important. I think you do a great job of making that known and highlighting that. And I think it's so helpful and it's very, very important.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I definitely really appreciate that. And I agree, I think even for myself, it took, I thought about the idea of like creating some type of just like platform or community for women to just be highlighted, and just like make people kind of aware of women in the hobby. And for me, like my biggest kind of push to actually, I kind of needed to push myself as well was seeing Hannah, her YouTube channel. For some reason, I hadn't seen it. She'd been doing it for a few months before I stumbled upon it, but I saw her YouTube channel. I said, if she's doing this, like, no, this is my push to go out there and do this as well. So yeah, I definitely agree. Like some people, they may be go-getters, but other people, they do need a little bit of a push, myself included. And then, yeah, also kind of going back on the kind of like the diversity of, getting women in through different aspects. I mean, yeah, I just think if you can come in through all these different perspectives, the more perspectives you have, I feel like just the more educated you become. And I think that's another thing that I've learned through the hobby is I love learning more than I thought I did. I'm like a year removed from school and I'm used to learning. I'm used to having to learn because I was going to get tested. And now I'm realizing, no, I just kind of like to know things. So that's kind of neat to find out through the hobby as well.
Yeah, you're inquisitive. So, and that's important. That's important. And, it's you're going to learn. I've been doing this a long time, Sam. And, I try to avoid, and I think I do a fairly good job. I don't like to say I know a lot. I say I think a lot. I know what I had for dinner yesterday. I know this pullover is white, but I don't know what next month's going to bring the hobby. I might have an opinion or a thought process, and I think sometimes on the content creation end, we have a lot of people saying I know and really putting themselves out there. Nothing wrong with it. That we're all entitled to our opinion and how we want to portray that. But when you do the I knows and then that doesn't happen, a lot of people letting you know that, hey, what you said, not true. You were wrong. And so, and I just don't, I think, there's a lot, let's, be honest with you. We have a lot of people that are very influenced. And so I don't really, I get asked all the time, hey, what do you think? What's going to happen here? What do you think? We're in a market correction. How long does this last? Where's it going? What's next? And all I can give is my opinion. I don't know. When this pandemic first kind of broke, I was on this show and I was wrong because I said, I think what's going to happen is the hobby's going to struggle while people are going to be worried more about, paying their bills, putting food on the table, having water, toilet paper, they're keeping their jobs, maintaining employment. Cards are going to sort of take a back seat. And as we both know here, a year and a half later, way wrong, swing and a miss, right? I mean, got a curveball when I was looking fastball. And I'm glad to be wrong. It was arguably probably the best, 1.5 years in hobby history. There's a lot of reasons for that. We've both talked about that on our respective shows. And but I use that to point out that there's someone who's been in the hobby 30-something years at that point, and I was wrong. You don't, so I try to avoid the I knows and do the I thinks. And sometimes those I thinks, as I was in March of 2020, are don't come to fruition. And, now we're seeing sort of a little market correction, if you will, but as things sort of go back to normal, some of that discretionary income is not there, and other people start to get out and enjoy the things that were closed for so long. And I think the hobbies is feeling, I think we're seeing now a little bit of what I sort of predicted then. I think it's just it was a 1.5 year delay, and the hobby's still great. It's still strong. You're looking at auctions breaking all sorts of records still, and there's a lot of transactions still occurring. It just, I think that boom where stuff just goes up 800% is not going to be there. Some things maybe, but not just almost across the board like it was just firing on all cylinders. And can still enjoy the hobby. Doesn't mean anything's in trouble. Just things can't always go up all the time. That's not how it works, whether it's the stock market or bonds or yield. I mean, it's just it comes with the territory. And so, we'll have to make adjustments and still enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think, I would say I didn't really get back into the hobby until, kind of amid the boom, amid the bust. But if I had been in it, pre-COVID, I think I would have shared the same thought. Obviously, as you're saying, I wouldn't have known, but I probably would have thought something similar in the fact that, COVID would have been very hard for people to have, expendable income that they can just use discretionary money for whatnot, like things like cards. So I probably would have thought the same thing. But I do agree, even though the hobby right now, it is taking a little bit of, a downturn, I think it's still strong as well. And I would say I think the hobby beforehand, when it was so unpredictable with the boom and just crazy boom, it almost felt like fantasy land to me. I'm not sure that I was a little scared of it, honestly, because it's that's a little insane. If it can go up that much, it can go down that much in the same amount of time, if not faster. So that was a little scary to me to see that. And I would honestly say I feel a little bit more comfortable now that things are settled down a little bit, just because I feel more safe in the prices of things. They're not just gonna, rise drastically, and hopefully that means they're not gonna fall drastically either anymore. It's not as volatile, I guess, is really the word. But yeah, I agree. I think it's still very strong, and I think it is just continuing to bring in more people. Some people, they've left because of, they just came in for a quick bit, something to do over COVID or something. But I do think some people stayed, and they are trying to, bring more people in as well.
Yep, and I think this little downturn, market correction, whatever terminology we want to use, I think there's a healthy aspect to it too, where things can be more affordable for those that were sort of getting frustrated and sort of priced out, and for those when the hobby was booming, it was just real easy. You didn't have to be super smart to sort of just buy something and sell something. And now I think you're going to have to do a little bit more homework. I don't think it's just going to be that easy, quick, get in, do this. And I think you're going to see people have to work a little bit more. If that's their angle, if that's what they enjoy doing, it's not going to be as easy, and they're going to have to sort of earn it a little bit more, if you will. And I think that's not wrong with that. I think that's healthy and good for the hobby. And we'll lose a few people and we'll gain a few more too. It's a constant in and out, and it's always been like that. It has nothing to do with the recent boom or the correction maybe we're seeing now. There's always like anything in life, any hobby, you have some new people come in, you have some people who don't enjoy it anymore and decide not to do it, and that comes with the territory. All right, going to hear from another great sponsor, Sports Card Shop at Moco. The Gotcha family doing big things, wax, providing wax and singles and graded cards. Let's hear from them.
The Sports Card Shop at Moco is your small-town local shop with a global reach. Conveniently located in New Buffalo, Michigan. We're an easy drive for most residents in Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. Come see us every Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5 and Sundays from 12 to 5. Want to shop from the comfort of your home? Give us a call at 269-469-0140 or visit our website at thesportscardshop@moco.com or our Facebook page. Major credit cards and PayPal accepted, and we ship anywhere in the world. We're an authorized dealer for both Panini and Topps, with new sealed wax from both arriving weekly. And yes, we have PSA and SGC graded cards and over 250,000 singles in stock. Be sure to follow us and turn on notifications for posts to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you don't miss out on new arrivals. The Gocher family has been serving this community for over a decade, so stop by or visit us at the sports card shop at moco.com.
We're back with Sam Shuford. So I got to ask you, we got the National coming up here in about 4 or 5 weeks. Are you going?
Yes, I'm going, and I'm really excited. I've never been to a national. I'm going Friday through Sunday. So hopefully I still get to do some things. I think I've heard of a few people doing things on Thursday, which is unfortunate because I won't be there till Friday. But yeah, I'm still excited. And yeah, I feel like my main excitement is probably just stemming from meeting people. I'm not really sure that I have any like card strategies going into it. Really just pick up some cards that I like. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, I'm excited to just go in and, meet these people that you've seen for the past year, whether it be other content creators or just people that you've been talking with. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, you're going to have to, as someone this will be my second one. My first, believe it or not, for as long as I've been in the hobby, 2019 in Chicago was my first one. And I went there for 4 days or 3 days. This one, I'm going for the full week, Wednesday to Sunday. Whatever you think it is, it's going to be a grander scale. It really is. And, not just one word of advice and some of the most fun you're going to have is meeting those folks you say that enjoy women in the hobby that want to come up to you and talk to you, and meet you in person. You're going to have to take, honestly, you're going to probably have to take, designate one day out of your 3 really for that. I mean, it's going to happen all 3 days, but if you really, what I tried to do in 2019 is sort of one day was just not even really so much look at showcases and what's in it. One day I just, met people, did photos and all that, selfie, goofy, funny stuff, have conversations. Then another day, I did some on-site interviews as well, which I'll do this time as well. I sort of pick a day where I just want to focus on that. And then you got to leave. It's so big, you got to leave time. If you want to see everything, you want to leave time for that. And it's, I'll say this, Sam, too. If it's not there, it probably doesn't exist. It's almost like, we go to Hall of Fames, right? Like baseball. I'm not far here from Cooperstown, and just some of the crazy stuff that's in that building. For the National, it's like that for cards. I mean, there's you're going to see the owner's Wagner. You're going to see 52 Topps packs unopened, and you want to see that stuff, and so you want to make sure you leave enough time so you hit all those tables and booths and displays and kiosks, and so you don't miss nothing. And it's funny. I went to, I think, the 3.5 days in 2019, and then hearing other people talk like, I didn't see that, I missed that, and so I'm going the full week this time. And but you sort of have to have half a game plan. You don't want to game plan too much where it's you don't have fun with it either, but you sort of have to kind of go in like I said, one day for me was just talking to people and sort of no itinerary other than meeting people. And then one day was on-site interviews, and then the rest of the time was, hey, let's check out all this crazy, amazing stuff that you don't see all the time, especially locally. And so as long as you sort of kind of map that out maybe a little bit ahead of time, and people say, hey, you got to have deep dish in Chicago, you got to have deep dish pizza, so you got to make room for schedule that, and it's going to be you're gonna have a great time, and you'll be going to every year, and once you go to one, you get kind of hooked, and it's just a great, we already know the hobby's great. I think the National just does a great job at highlighting that for a week. I call it the Super Bowl of the hobby, and that's kind of really how I view it. And it's going to be fun. I look forward to being one of those people you meet in person. You inspire me, Sam. I'll say that publicly and on the air. You really do. I enjoy your show and what you're doing for all the hobby, not just one segment specifically, but just the hobby in general. And I think it's awesome. Keep doing it. Thank you for coming on. I want to give you sort of the final word here. give out all where people can see what you're doing, Women of Hobby, if they haven't saw the show, where they can catch it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely keep those tips in mind for the national. But I just want to say thank you again for having me on. It's been amazing just, getting to hear some of your perspectives. And yeah, I'm excited to have you be one of the people that I meet in person in the national. But yeah, in terms of the other platforms that you can find me on, so I have my Instagram, so it's Sam's_stuff25. It's more of like my own personal card Instagram. Then I have Women of the Hobby Instagram, and then within YouTube, I also have Women of the Hobby YouTube channel, and it also streams on Spotify and Apple, and I think a few other places that honestly I'd never even heard of, but those are probably the mainstream ones. I just put it on one thing, and I think it distributes it to multiple platforms. So just search Women of the Hobby, and you'll be likely to find it. And yeah, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming on and keep doing what you're doing. I think it's important. You do a great job, and I look forward to seeing future episodes and as the show grows and as you do, and as you're doing great now, and I know it's going to be even better in the future. So continued success.
Thank you.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
All right, that's going to bring episode 133 to a conclusion. Want to thank my guest today, Sam Shuford, bright light in the hobby, doing big things, and glad she made some time for the show. Look forward to meeting her as we talked about in Chicago and the National. Speaking of that, I look forward to meeting a lot of people there, listeners included. If you see me and happen to recognize me, come on up, shake a hand, fist bump, whatever your thing is. Tell me you like the show, you don't like the show, what we can do better, or what we can do more of, or let's just talk life for the hobby. That's just how I roll. So, hope to see some folks there. Couple programming notes, if you will, on other shows. Hobbypalooza is July 9th and 10th. It's a 2-day, 2.5 day in a way, kind of virtual online celebration of the hobby, I guess is the best way to put it. Put on by Bench Clear Media. And we're Hobby Hotline, our Saturday morning conglomerate podcast show is going to be the leadoff hitter. It's going to officially start Hobbypalooza. That will be on July 10th at 11 a.m. in its normal slot, so you don't have to tune into a different time. We're going to have a giveaway to be announced, and we're going to have really all guests on deck for that. The whole crew that can make it will be there, and it'll be a lot of fun. Will be a hard out at an hour, so it'll be a guaranteed 60-minute show. On the following day, this show right here, Sports Card Nation, at 7 p.m. on Sunday, the 11th, is going to do a special live 1-hour show with a guest to be announced. We're working on who that guest might be. Nothing confirmed yet. And so look forward to that. We don't do a lot of live Sports Card Nations. We've done a few, but this will be a live event, and that will be Sunday the 11th as the Hobbypalooza is winding down. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I think we're going to, whoever the guest is, I think I'm going to open it up for some call-ins or come on the screen. It's going to be on the StreamYard platform, so anyone that wants to join myself and the guest to be named later, to steal a baseball term, I think I'm going to open it up for that, something sort of different, and maybe, maybe a precursor to something else. Who knows? We'll see. And before we go, I want to announce next week's guest of Sports Card Nation will be Jeremy Murray, president of Beckett. We're going to talk about some of the new things they've done. We're going to talk about some issues that have come up. Jeremy is very forthright and honest and a person of integrity, and does agree to talk about some of that. We're not going to harp on it, but we're gonna go through it, go over it. I'll ask my questions and we'll discuss it, and then we'll talk about the national and future plans for the Beckett Company. So looking forward to that conversation as well. And July is going to be jam-packed, full of great interviews as well. So going to be busy. Going to be a busy guy in the next month leading into the national, and be busy there. And it's going to be fun. And hope you're enjoying the hobby and everything that comes with it. So with that being said, we'll call it a night. We'll see you next week with another Sports Card Nation, Jeremy Murray from Beckett. And we'll see you Monday with another edition of our shorter show, Hobby Quick Hits. Take care. We'll see you soon. All right, one quick edit. I did say that the guest for the Hobby Palooza Sports Card Nation Live in my closing here was to be determined. But as I said during the What's Up segment, it's going to be the guys from Pack to the Future podcast, Chad, Timmy, and Ricky. So I just wanted to clarify that if you heard one thing and then that. I recorded them at different times. So the guys from Pack to the Future will be my guest on Sports Card Nation Live on July 11th. Take care, and we'll see you soon.